Hello, hello, teacher friends. It is Thursday. If you are joining us on day 4, thank you. The question of the day today is, on a scale of 1 to 10, how difficult do you find it to manage your whole classroom while you're doing small group? So, drop a scale 1 to 10. How do you feel when you are trying to manage? And hello from New York. And 1 being it's rough, right? And 10 being I'm good. I've got my finger on all the things. So again, scale 1 to 10 in the comments on how difficult it is for you to manage the whole classroom while you're doing small group. A 1 being holy moly, I'm putting out fires everywhere, and a 10 being no, I'm good. So if you'll drop that in there. I definitely was lower on the scale not too long ago, and so I knew that I had to do something about that because it was driving me crazy. It was driving me nuts to have to constantly be putting out fires when I was trying to work with a small group at the table. So that's kind of what we're going to talk about today, and it's all about kind of scheduling and what I found was the key to my success. So I'm getting some comments in here. Good, we have some 8s and 6s. Awesome. 5, 6, depending on how many assistants I have. Yeah, I hear that. I am in a classroom with 10, and we don't have we have an aide, a floating aide, but not one that's with us all the time. So it's definitely just me. So I see a 4, some 7s. Awesome. Awesome. Well, today we're really going to be talking about scheduling and kind of our mindset around that scheduling. So when I first started trying to do these small groups, I just found myself constantly being pulled away. Like, oh, hold on, we got to go work on this problem, or oh, hold on, so-and-so is doing this that they shouldn't be doing. So if you've ever had that like frustration creep in because you just are constantly everywhere putting out little fires, and you're like, hold on to your small group and running over here, and no, I'm sorry, we're not going to do that, or coming over here, oh, are you okay? Something happened, all those things are going to happen naturally because they're 4 and 5, but I was starting to feel like I was like just constantly putting out fires and not getting anything done. So, and then sometimes I would just have some like criers at the beginning of the year. They still wanted mom and dad, and so they were on my hip, and it's definitely a balancing act no matter which way you look at it. But I found that if I do these 3 things, then it definitely helps. So let's go ahead and get started. Hello to all of you here. Yesterday was all about small group activities. If you watched, thank you, and I hope you found some good value from that. And as I mentioned yesterday, I'm going to add another day onto this. This is going to be a 5-day series plus 1. And next Monday, we're going to talk about kind of how I organize it, how I organize my activities for my small group, because that was a question that came up. So next Monday, we're going to do that too. And tomorrow is Friday, and it's all about my best tips for successful groups. So let's go on to today, which is all about creating an effective small group schedule. And it may not be exactly what you think. So I mentioned the 3 things, and the 3 things for me is what I have to have in place before I even think about starting small group. And this has been definitely a mind shift change, because I feel like when I first started with the preschool age, I came from first grade, and so we wouldn't have dreamed in first grade to wait, a couple months before getting started on really diving deep into our curriculum. And that's kind of what I felt like I was doing with small groups. Granted, I'll go into this more so you can kind of understand what I'm trying to say, but I definitely had a mind shift is what I'm wanting to tell you, because the 3 things that I've found that I absolutely have to have before I can even like start the small groups is 1, procedures. I didn't always put a lot of stock into teaching procedures when I first started, and I was finding that I was just constantly putting out fires. It was just that's what I did with my day. Instead of maybe having small group time or having a meaningful whole group, I was just putting out small fires. And so procedures, number one, because I can't expect my friends to go to Sinners and play nicely without me being right there if they don't know what I expect. And so that's going to change every year. Even if the friends have been in your program before, if they haven't been in your classroom, your expectations are different. So I found that teaching them how to use the centers, and I did this by playing with them. I did this by modeling before we went to centers. I also found it important. We have a restroom in our classroom, and so they needed to know how to use just the basic, like how to turn on and off the water. Our water faucet thingy's not that easy. So that was something we had to practice, because I found myself in the past always going to have to help with something as simple as turning on and off the water or getting a paper towel. So that's a procedure that I had to make sure they knew before I really wanted to pull over small groups. And then also just how to be safe. I mean, I still had some children at the beginning of last year that were trying to leave the room. They didn't understand the boundaries. So I was having to teach them just the simple, we have to stay in the room. This is what we do to stay safe. We can't run in the room. And just all the different procedures that you do that you don't necessarily think about. I had to make sure those were hammered down first and foremost. And I taught them what I expected. Because in the past, I really found myself going, well, surely they know how to do that. And the reality of it was they may not have. So if I can make sure to teach it and reiterate it, then it just makes my life so much easier. And so I am going to be doing another live series on procedures in August 10th through the 16th. So I hope you'll join me for that. So that's number one of the three things. And number two is relationships. I've really found that the more I know my kiddos and the more they know me and the relationship that we have, I can better work with them in small groups, of course, but they also kind of know, they basically don't want to upset me because we have this great relationship. So if they're in centers, generally I just have to ask them, oh, can you do this, please? And we've already have this relationship in place. And so I'm able to, they just want to please a lot easier with these relationships. And so with those first two things, procedures and relationships, like I feel like those are first and foremost, and they're going to make my whole entire year easier. Like they just do. And that's the one message I wish I could give all of my coworkers, all my fellow teachers, is it will be so much easier for you if your children know what you expect and they know you love them and that you're on their side no matter what. So those two for me are they're just irreplaceable. And then third is assessment. Obviously, I can't put them in a small group until I do assessment, but I also can't do assessment until they can independently use the play centers correctly. And I really don't get as good of assessment results if I don't have that good relationship with them. The more I know them, the better that those assessment results, and the more, what am I trying to say? They'll just be better. I will get better results because they know me. Like in the past, I know of some teachers that like on the first day of school have done some assessments and I've already got these assessments done, but I'm like, no, this isn't, we don't want them coming in the first day going, oh, this is what school is. I sit down and my teacher says, do this, and I do this. Like, I really want them to form that relationship with me. So my first couple months are spent playing with them, building relationships, seeing what they know, observing them. And so you may be thinking, like, how long is that going to take? Like, I can't wait forever to start working with some of my kiddos that are struggling. And so, like, seriously, how long is that going to take? And I found that it differs. It definitely differs based on my class. It differs based on how many children I have. And it definitely differs just because of the time of year. And so if you're going, whoa, if I start later, I'm going to be behind, right? If I take let's just say 2 months. And I don't like to put a time frame on it because I feel like it's different every time. But let's say I started late August. It may be October, mid-October before, even later maybe, before I start actually diving into our groups, because I want to have those foundational things set in our classroom. I want the relationships there. I want the procedures there. And I want reliable assessment results. So I have to remind myself, like, okay, I know it feels like you only have so much time in the year. So I'm already taking up like 2 months of this, and I may be doing whole group lessons. I'm doing all these things, but I'm not specifically helping children on these specific skills. And that may seem like a lot, but then I have to remind myself that our preschool year has seasons, and this is kind of the way I see it, and maybe you can relate to them, but I see 4 seasons of preschool, just like 4 seasons of the year. I see these 4 seasons in our preschool year almost every single year. And the first is starting in the blue, like, whoa, like, whoa. I forgot how young they were. I forgot how little they were. I forgot what they couldn't do yet. And I'm not sure why every year I have to have a whoa, but I do. And so if you can relate, drop a yes in the comments, because whoa happens to me every year, and it happens to some of my coworkers. It's like, whew, I was used to those those 5-year-olds that really could handle this, and here we're back at square one. And so that whoa period. And then we get into like this pink one over here where it's kind of like, yeah, okay, we're getting the hang of this. Woohoo. And it's about what, like, for us, we started in August, so this would be like, oh gosh, December, January-ish. And yes on the whoa. I know, right? I don't know why I forget. So then you're in like the okay, we're getting this under control. And that's usually when I feel like I can start small groups. And I don't feel like that, like we're making a ton of progress. But then we get to spring. Then it's like March. And then it's like, bam, light bulb, light bulb, light bulb, light bulb. Like, what just happened? And it's so amazing to see, and it is what I work through the whoa period for. Like, it's what gets me through the whoa period, is knowing that the BAM period's coming later. The BAM season's coming, and the BAM season is the best. And yes, or Corona hits during BAM season, which is exactly what happened this last year, and it really stunk because I worked really hard, and they were really you could just see it. It was starting to just like bloom, and that hit. So I have to remind myself that if I take this whoa time, then I'll finally get to the A-OK time, and eventually when we get through the BAM time, I am just seeing like massive skyrocketing of learning for most of my kiddos. I mean, it's amazing. And then, of course, we end the season with the boo of the, you have to leave me now, and I'm not ready for you to leave me, and it's spring and we're done, or it's summer and we're done, and you're sad because you've put in the whoa and the A-OK, and you've seen the BAMs, and then boo, you have to leave them, but you're very proud of them, right? And so when I'm going through my small group and going, okay, it feels like it's taking forever to get through these procedures, it feels like it's taking a long time to build these relationships, I have to remember the BAM period, because the BAM period like literally skyrockets in that couple months where they're just blooming and they're ready for all that knowledge. So I kind of build myself up to that, and I allow myself the time, and I allow them the time. They deserve that time to come into my classroom, learn what school's about, learn the procedures without me getting frustrated at them because I'm trying to do a small group maybe too early in our year. So I kind of hope that helps you maybe change your mindset around it too, and give yourself a little bit of grace if you feel like it's taking too long, because the BAM time is coming, and the BAM time is what we're there for, right? It's the most amazing time. It's why a lot of us do what we do. So just my thoughts on that, and when you should start your small groups in the year. Some other questions is like, how long should a session be? And I definitely do a gradual build up for sure. And you have to know your students. You have to know whether they can sit, what their attention to task looks like, and you have to know those things because that's going to go into it. And I start off very small. You know those kiddos that really love this stuff and could sit forever, and I still don't even let them sit forever because I really want them to make sure that they're getting out there and playing too, and creating all those relationships that they need and using those problem solving skills. So I keep it small at first, and then by the end, during the band period, I usually find that I'm doing about 15 minutes or more depending on the group. And that's just 100% led by the students. Like every year it feels different, and every year I just go, oh, okay, we're going to do it this way this year, because it really depends on my students and who is in my class. And so I would love to be able to put a schedule out for myself saying, okay, starting small group, we're going to do this many minutes. And some days it works out great, and others they're like, I'm not, that activity wasn't that fun, so I'm gone. So it really is just led by the students. And I know that's not super helpful, but if you just keep in mind being really flexible and giving them grace and yourself grace, and knowing it's not the end of the world if your small group lesson didn't last the amount of time that you thought it would. Another question is, should I be doing small group daily? And we kind of talked about this in another one of the other videos, but you've really got to consider a couple of things. How many students do you have? If you're serving 20 kiddos, that's a lot of students, and there's no way you're going to be able to see 20 students a day, most likely, right? If you have an aide, maybe you tackle that, both of them. I don't know. I personally have 10 students, and I don't see all of them every day. Also depends on how many days a week they're coming. My students come Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So obviously we have less days in the year than a Monday through Friday set of kiddos. So that's something to keep in mind. And then I also just look at how I feel that some of my groups are progressing, how some of my students are progressing. If I have a group that I feel like, we're really not kind of chugging along yet, I may see them for sure once a week, maybe even twice a week, right? So I don't plan that until about the week before. I know what we're probably going to do if we're working in small groups. I know some of the activities I like to do that seem to resonate with them, but I don't necessarily go, okay, I'm going to see this group, and this group on this day for this whole month. I just do it week by week because it changes. Kids are always throwing curveballs at us, so we have to be flexible. So those are kind of some of the things that you could take into consideration of whether you think you could see them daily. Is that even a goal you think you could meet? Would that be too stressful on you or on the children? Just tons of different things to think about. And then also the question of, do you have small group during every center time? So I've mentioned this before, we're a very play-based center, and so we have 2 free play centers. And so I have found that the morning play center, because we have one right in the morning, right when they come in, and then we have another one after lunch. And they're only there till 1:30. So that one after lunch, I found not to be the most beneficial, mainly because they're getting tired and they're kind of getting just in their own zone, and it's just harder to engage them. So the morning one is usually when I have that time. But I've also found that sometimes they're just ready to come in guns ablaze and see their friends make a Lego creation with their friends at the block center, or do some art with the friend. And so they may not always be ready to come see me. So that's been kind of, it's kind of a give and take. So what I've actually found is some of my students who don't want to come see me in the morning, I wait till the afternoon. And so I just had to kind of really get to know them and know when's best for them, and could I meet with them and their group in the afternoon center time. And so it's not always cut and dry, but I have found For some kids, the afternoon is hard because of getting fatigued. The morning is hard because it has to be and that's where my activities where I have to really make them engaging so they want to come see me. And it gets easier as the year goes on because I kind of start picking up the pattern. But at first, it can be hard to do the morning circle time, or I'm sorry, centered small group time. My gracious, small group time. If they're just really, really still in that play zone. And I've mentioned before, if they're still really in that play zone, maybe that's where they are right now. And maybe we just wait a couple weeks before pulling that student for small group. They maybe aren't in the band period yet, right? So just a couple thoughts around scheduling. And I hope that by sharing this with you today, maybe just gave you some things to think about for when you're scheduling, because it does feel like it should be cut and dry, like my small group time is from this time to this time. And then when you get in it, it gets messy. Everything we do gets messy, doesn't it? As preschool teachers. But I'm hoping that was helpful to you to just give you some things to think about. And tomorrow is the last day on tips, and I hope you'll join me because I've got some good tips just to help you be successful right out of the gate. And then again, next Monday, we are going to look at the organizational side. And if you're anything like me, I love the organizational side. It's fun. I'm not sure why, but it is. So I want to thank you so much for joining me today. And let me know if you have any other comments or questions. I love seeing them, and I'll be happy to answer those for you. So have a great rest of your day. Bye.